So good evening, everyone, and welcome to our first event for Black History Month 2021 at LSBU. My name is Neil Hudson-Basing. I'm the Corporate Events Manager at LSBU. I'm just going to take you through some virtual housekeeping before I hand over to Pamela for our scene setting and welcome. We'll start off with a short statement on respect and dignity. Everyone speaking at or attending an LSBU event, whether in person or virtually, should be treated with respect, dignity, and courtesy. LSBU operates an environment built on equality, inclusion, and acceptance. We value contributions, feedback, and comments, and wish to create a space for sharing, learning, celebrating, and bringing communities together. LSBU does not tolerate any form of bullying, abuse, harassment, or discrimination. Inappropriate behaviour, including that potentially impacts or contradicts LSBU's reputation and values, will be treated seriously and acted upon. Anyone exhibiting any example of this behaviour will also be removed from the webinar. We want our events to be an enjoyable, safe, and warm experience for all. Thank you for adhering to these guidelines. Just to take you through the Zoom functionality, we're in Zoom Pro, which means that you will be able to turn your cameras and mics on to engage later after we've heard from our guests today. Please do use the chat box to share your thoughts and comments in there. You can share them there and on Twitter. We'd love to see those comments, and I'll pop in our Twitter handle and our hashtag in the chat box now. Colleagues that are on screen, please feel free to share your Twitter handles in there if you'd like people to include you in those as well. I have enabled closed captioning. You can hide that by clicking the little up arrow next to CC Live Transcript at the bottom of your screen. That's all for now. I'll be sharing our other events that we've got lined up for Black History Month. We've got the range of guest speakers. We have Dame Elizabeth Anyonwu talking about her new book, Dreams from My Mother. The guys at Black History Walks are back to do another virtual tour of London. We have Karen Arthur talking about her podcast, Menopause Whilst Black and Celebrating Life After 50. And we have Dr. Ronks talking about kind of challenging public perception. So a whole host of events for Black History Month 2021 at LSBU, and I'll be sharing those in the chat box. Welcome everyone, and I'll hand over to Pamela.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome. Welcome to, my name is Pamela Thomas. I am the EquiNet secretary. My colleague Shaminda Tucker, who's actually on the line, who's the chair of EquiNet, is got bronchitis, so she's not able to speak this evening. So I'll actually come in as chair. Just want to welcome Poetic Unity and Nairobi Thompson once again this year. Apologies again on being online, but welcome to everybody. We have Kwame, we have Aisha Therese, RS, we've got Jada and Rohan. So welcome everybody. The program today will be doing Poetic Unity. You'll start us off, and then we'll followed by Nairobi, and then we'll have an open floor discussion for sharing questions, and then any closing remarks for everybody. But over to you, Poetic Unity. Do your stuff.
Hi everyone. So for those of you that don't know, Poetic Unity is a Brixton-based charity that provides support and services for young people across the UK. We do that, we use poetry as a tool to support young people through workshops across the country. Especially during lockdown, we delivered quite a lot of poetry workshops for different people aged between 16 and 30. I won't talk too much. Our first performer that we will have up is Mr. Reed. He is an amazing poet, and I'm sure he's got some great words for us. So Mr. Reed, would you like to take it away?
Hi guys, so just had to unmute myself there. I'm Mr. Reed. I've got a couple poems for you today. I'm loving the theme, proud to be. I know it's cliche because it's Black History Month, but I'm proud to be Black. Hey. But yeah. So this first poem, yeah, I'm just gonna go into it because most of my poems I don't name them. So yeah, this is a poem about my environment. Can everybody hear me clearly?
We can.
See, where I'm from, we have this infectious language that spreads like a cold. That's why I say "wagwan" when I see my boy on road. Then it's a hug or a spud with the fist closed, because I'm a product of my environment. Where they create the systems and the structure, then say what we do is entitlement. But our environment is provocative. So is everything our entitlement, or does it feel like prerogative? But see, regardless of the covert evil, where I'm from builds the most revolutionary people, the strongest, most resilient, and most intelligent, the type without the political position but still moves nations like a president. We're just that influential. And yeah, some of us would rather pitch an 8-ball than play on a football pitch, but that's just unreached potential. See, most of us are hustlers by nature because we was raised on survival. They left us in the dark only for us to rise up and become rivals. See, oppression of my people was evident, a system set up to destroy the Black family. But see, greatness can never be destroyed. Where I'm from, we breed geniuses that ain't ever been employed. One by one, we change the world and now the privileged are annoyed. See, you always had the ability, but your self-belief was void. Yeah, that was the first piece. And I got one more for you guys. This one actually does have a name. This is one of my few poems that I actually did get to name. I think it's because as a poet, a lot of the time you write, well, me personally, you write impulsively and out of frustration. So you just write something on a page and you don't have a name for it. Do you get what I'm saying? If you're a passionate person. So yeah, this one is called Black Lives Matter, ? Black Lives Matter, ? I never really liked the term Black Lives Matter. Of course, I see how it's helped us make progress and it warms my heart to see the love at the protest, but the fact that I'm having to tell you that I matter means something's wrong here. We were the first humans on earth, yet we're treated like we don't belong here. For too many years, we've been singing the same song here. For too many years, we've been expected to stay strong here. In workplaces that look equal on TV, but we just play along here. Black Lives Matter. Of course, the way you treat a Black woman should more than portray that. But Black Lives Matter. Let me tell you why I cringe when I say that. See, we are indigenous to the most influential continent on earth. Telling you that I matter feels like I'm explaining my worth to people who are not my superiors. I matter, but you already knew that. We built our foundation with the stones they threw, we never threw back. Our ancestors marched for the same reasons, let's not misconstrue that. As if George Floyd was the first time we've been through that. Black Lives Matter. More like, I'm a manifestation of God and you better show some respect. And George Floyd shone the light on Black employees that institutions are supposed to protect. We made noise, and now the dots are supposed to connect because equality is something the workplace is supposed to reflect. Black Lives Matter. You must not be paying attention. With or without the Black power list, there's too many names to mention. See, it was Black people that created everything from the light bulb to the Curlington. And if Gladys West didn't pioneer the GPS, then it would be the wrong roads that you're swerving on. And now if you go to Oxford University, it might be a Carla that they're learning from because there's facts missing from the pages they're turning on. I composed this poem with the swagger of Shirley Thompson, and this is a happy song. As if it's not the norm for Black women to academically outperform like Anne-Marie Maffidon. See, I was that 90s kid that played Star Wars on my Sega. Now when I watch Star Wars, I see John Boyega. And on the TV, you won't learn about Black geniuses when it's prime time because they'd rather tell you about Black boys that do knife crime. But Romani Wilfred has a higher IQ than Einstein. And that's a Black king. We top the charts when a Black sings. And you can ask Usain Bolt if being fast is a Black thing because him and Lewis Hamilton play different sports, but they're track kings. To tell you about Black legends, the pleasure is all mine. As if Serena Williams isn't the greatest of all time. See, Black athletes are the reason the whole world puts Nike on, but we still have our own clothes. That's why Mikey Trapstar is a fashion icon. From humble beginnings, trying to keep the lights on, when nobody had the backs of Black people, we had to fight on. So how can you look at your dark skin and not feel alpha yet? When Black people created everything from the ironing board to the alphabet. Your greatness is something you can't now forget. because we can't rely on the education system to tell our children that we was kings, queens, and warriors. I mean, we had such a big impact, but they only want you to think that Christopher was notorious. My ancestors built a civilization that was glorious, so it's ironic that European history books are ignoring us when we brought the libraries here. And when I walk into libraries, it seems it's our books that the libraries fear. He said, all lives matter. I said, the library's near. Educate yourself. Because I'm tired of explaining racism to racists who saw my culture and thought, let me taste this, but never appreciate this. It took less than a year to orchestrate the evil. Said after 400 years, they couldn't break my people. Black women taught us strength, they didn't make us feeble. They're trying to make us feel like being Black is illegal. But I never fell for the lies. I saw a Black woman and I fell for them eyes because I see home in them. I want to visit the pyramids in Egypt so I can roam in them. Only the homeland could make me feel whole again, because racism has taken its toll again. The false ideology that they are superior is controlling them. So if you're not about Black unity, then you don't speak my vernacular. I'm trying to build a Black Wall Street in the Caribbean and Africa with a bus service where Rosa Parks can be a passenger without a racist challenger. Black Lives Matter. You must not have got the program. And I don't mean to sound like a roadman, but do you know who I am, fam? Do you know who I am, fam? My ancestors were real heroes before Batman. Black Lives Matter. Now, we've already been through that. More like Black is God, and you better act like you knew that. Thank you very much. I am Mr. Reed, and that was me. I'll put my Twitter handle in the chat. And yeah, thank you for having us on Poetic Unity. And I'm looking forward to the rest of the poetry. Thank you, guys.
Big thank you to Mr. Reed with those amazing, powerful words. Make sure that you follow him, guys, as well on all the socials. Like he said, he's going to put them in the chat. Next up, we have the amazing Aisha Therese.
Hey everyone, thank you for that, Mr. Reed. Beautiful. I love that second one so much. I was singing some of the lines with you, just so you know. Okay, yeah, so my name's Aisha Therese. I'm just gonna do one poem for you guys because it's a bit long and I need to get into more of a habit of writing poetry about like my Blackness in a positive light, because I do tend to be like atting other people for all the things that are wrong with it. So I do need to be a bit more optimistic in that. So this is my more optimistic poem. It doesn't have a name, just like Mr. Reed, doesn't have a name. Yeah, goes like this. The mandem on the ends are not to be feared, but admired. Their demeanor stands strong, though I know that they're tired. Outside the corner shop is where most reside, with their Nike pouches, white Air Forces, and on their pedal bikes. School was never something they resonated with, because there are certain things the teachers don't teach the kids, like how life is hard, but for them it will be harder. Because mommy lives in a council flat and daddy's skin's darker. Because they weren't born with silver spoons in their mouths. Because once you're in the game, it's hard to get out. Because white privilege isn't something they can experience. And through time and growth, they'll start to see the differences. So instead of living life the way we're told we should, by the bold white man in the suit that knows nothing of the hood, we choose to be vacant, and you can't blame them. Abusing illegal substances to help us feel numb. No sign of a guardian angel to help us overcome all these difficult circumstances we weren't prepared for. Still trying our best to ignore those suicidal thoughts because we know a new day will dawn. It's just, how long will it take? Carrying so much weight on my shoulders, my knees ache till my back breaks, and we're not the type of people to ask for help. We'd rather suffer in silence. Demons in our heads screaming like sirens, inner tyrant growing in violence. We didn't ask to be alive, clocking in and out of our 9 to 5, but now we've got to do all these things to survive. I can't handle the responsibility of my own life. I think it's about time that we shed a light on the monsters and ghouls that occupy the night. govern our cities and police our rights, those who decide whose life is worth more than others, those who taught us the best thing to do is hide under the covers, those who know nothing of struggle and poverty, but will make excuses for everything that they see, unless it's increasing their currency. I'm sick and tired of the lies, the underlying motives, the violence, the crimes. I've had enough of seeing young boys in a hearse. If things don't get better, they'll only get worse. One of my biggest fears is becoming the mother to a son who gets lost to a lifestyle of drugs and guns, whose life becomes another victim of the roads. It happens too often. We've seen it, we know. Over the decades, they have tried to dismantle your power. But here you stand, beautiful Black man. They have aided in diminishing your light. But here you stand, beautiful Black woman. They have been praying for our demise. But here you stand, beautiful Black human. You are the architect of your own errors, the designer of your dimension, holding all the keys in your hand, future, past, and present. I know I can be where I want to be. If I work hard at it, I'll be where I want to be. It's not about the end result, it's about the journey. So I'm learning from my mistakes before the wheel stops turning. I want everyone to take a minute to internalize these words and repeat these affirmations to themselves. I am valued. I am loved. I can be sensitive and strong. My melanin is magic, a fundamental unit of our planet. And the media may never speak the truth. They may never present us as the amazing people in this Zoom. They will continue to paint portraits to fit with their stories, speculating rumors to get them more reads. But through it all, we will go through our day to day, put on a brave face, because we have faith that our situation will change. You can't run in the sun until you have stood in the rain. So even when you feel like you have been buried, it is only in order to bloom again. Thank you very much. That was my poem. Thank you for having me. I really look forward to hearing everyone else's poetry as well. So yeah, thank you guys.
Thank you, Aisha. I'm 100% sure that everyone enjoyed that. If you did, please let her know in the chat as well. And I shall put her social media details in the chat. So guys, make sure that you follow her to keep up with her poetry and everything that she has going on. Next up, we have our penultimate Poetic Unity poet. That was some sick alliteration. Poet RS.
Hello. Asha, that was amazing, absolutely amazing. I've got two poems today. I'm gonna go straight into them. The first one is based on a game that I used to play as a child called Monopoly. And I felt like it kind of summed up like my growing up in as a Black person in South London. So this piece is called Black Monopoly. Being Black in Britain is a monopoly, a commodity of monochrome. I'm not spreading this colored man's mind. Display the truth only in black and white, because Black Britain is a game board of pieces you can't piece together. I feel like we always had to take a chance. Black culture is being breathed into the community chest, but we pay the reparation toll for their free parking. There are no get out of jail free cards for the Black youth and older minds. Prison systems profiting over my skin color, trading my skin for boxes with bars. The old Kent Road, their way to freedom, only to be Windrush back to reality. Automatically, we look to the heavens. Preachers and pastors praying together in segregation of religion, Black churches, as if we were subconsciously told not to enter their white chapel, but made to digest colonial books of white African Israelites. 40 days in the desert and you couldn't even catch a suntan. Evidence shows the angels is licking tongues of devilish disguise. Houston, we have a problem, because my skin has always made me feel like I'm living on the outskirts of a borrowed land, a land that has systematically Pentonville, defying minds against the shades of Black. So we develop a chip on our shoulder. Societal minds will tell you to pack it in, and you decide to retreat into your bag as a safe haven of flavor, where you can spill hot chips like cold facts, yet they're quick to change the narrative and tell you to stop crying over spilt milk. You see, Black Britain is a race of mispronounced names. Can't catch the spelling, but will sound it out like Pell, Peel, Pal, Pall Mall in there, Whitehall tone without asking for your identity. Rubber stamped as gangsters, thieves and job stealers, yet we never stole. Northumberland's into devastation via xenophobic avenues. Check the design. Britain took a bow when they bow street names together to praise slave masters, branded statues in honor. And even if you don't know, the eyes of history will always stare at you with cold and lifeless looks whilst the media system tries to keep you still. So who's the real statue? You see, being Black in Britain isn't so Marlborough light. There's a heaviness to the skin tone, a weight that carries 400 years of pain. We talk about the handcuffs of injustice, yet we have been slowly wrapped and shackled with growing vines in these streets, stranded in your own self-doubt and self-worth because the pipe dream of Britain spills more sewage as the truth becomes present. Not such a fleeting feeling being Black in Britain. The negative aroma of your skin tone is set in stone and whitewashed with racial hate that got systematically more structured the higher up the social classes. Even before the days of pigeons in Trafalgar Square, we've always had to fight for our basic rights to live. Let me stop for a second. Let me go back a few paces. Because 2020 last year has showed us that there is a connection. Not only does the international monopolies of countries recognize we are bored of games, but in Britain, we've started to see the light from underground, connecting lines like Leicester Square, Coventry Street and Piccadilly, rejecting these Regent Street hustlers who want to prevail white privilege and austerity doses while the monarchy lay dormant. So trust me when I say it's my time to breathe. Because Black excellence is making its way to places of historic white privilege. Places like Oxford, Circus acts to try to limit us, but they didn't count on our resilience. Blacks in Britain have never been more united than now. Bond streets with our blood and uprising mentality. Systematic regime may try to keep us parked in our lane, never to stray off the path, because once we get in tune with our true identity of culture, we may fare a chance of living under a colour tone of commonwealth that has sowed seeds of truth into British soil, having queens and kings cross swords with heritage to find out we have queens and kings in our blood heritage. So let me ask you if that means anything. Because unless Britain can find a way to marrow-bone cookie, mixed skin and mind, so the atmosphere of prejudice doesn't become a thoroughfare in a city like Fenchurch Street Station. Instead, like the liver, pull our streets to be detoxified so the blood that we can share isn't the same blood red you see stained on the flags of Britain. So never tell me not to pass go. I'm collecting pounds of Black wealth like it's the 27th of June, electrifying my electrolytes until I discharge my energy like an electric company. I will never suppress my energy. I'm not so toxic. This masculine will develop waterworks to bring monsoon seasons to these concrete jungles. My compliance should never be viewed as alliance. I don't pay income tax on freedom. You see, Black Britain is a monopoly, and I will always keep moving until my freedom is owned by my own properties. Thank you.
Hey, man,
Like,
for that one there.
thank you.
That was serious. That was serious, brother. I'm sorry, guys.
I appreciate it. And I got one more. I wrote this, I was part of a BBC workshop, and I actually went to the Tate Modern, and I saw a series of paintings of flags that were stripped of their color, and it really inspired me. It's in the Tate Modern, I think it's like the 4th floor, I don't know, but yeah, go check it out. And I wrote this poem in the Tate Modern whilst I was staring at these paintings. I am a mixture of complex identities. Hence, when you mix every color of the rainbow, you will receive black. If you strip down every color of my flag, you will see the naked vulnerabilities that my ancestors stored within my veins and arteries. So every time I wave my flag, you are seeing my color, you are seeing my identity, you are seeing a piece of cloth that is stitched from the tears of those washed out. Those that would rather drown in the sea of hope than be chastised in the shackles of despair. Those detached from color because of the value in their pigment. Those flags that were drained of color but never raised the white flag. They throw a flag on a plate to symbol a flag down, man down. Do I really need a tonal scale like do, re, mi, are those rays me, are those colors limiting how you see me within your prism's eye? Or am I the rainbow still holding on to its pot of gold because it's filled with hope instead of filled with blood diamonds? They say hope is not tangible, but it's damn well usable. Let the colors of my flag be a reminder of what I hold within my melanin whilst I hold you accountable. Accountable, you'll count it all. So you know that every single color of my flag that my ancestors experimented on palettes is palatable. Are you hungry? Can you stomach it? Hungry for you to see that my color, like my skin, can be peeled away because it's the flesh of my forefathers that keeps me muscling on. Hungry because I haven't eaten in a long time. And those gut punches merely sound like the echoes of Caribbean drums. My hue is human. My flag is humane. The color you took away from our flags pales in comparison to our inner shine, so bleach me to white. But remember, even albinos look Negro. Is it not apparent yet that no matter what color you try to take away from us, we will still be vibrant because you can still see our outline? And I don't mean chalked out like a murder scene. I mean shining. I mean outline. I mean out there. I mean outshine. I mean insight. My flag resembles the complex identities hidden in my helix. I'm healed. It's a case of, are you ready to see how colorful my perception of the world is? Thank you very much. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. Shay, sorry, that was my son. Yeah, thank you for having me, for letting me share. Obviously, you know, with it being Black History Month, I feel like every day is Black History Month. And, you know, I can't wait to hear Jada perform and everybody else. Thank you for performing. So thank you.
Big thank you to Poet RS, who absolutely killed that. I'm sure everyone agrees. If you do agree, let him know in the chat. And RS will put his socials, so make sure that you follow him on there. Next poet is me. I'm going to do 2 poems for you guys. The first poem I'm going to do is called I Know Why the Caged Bird Sleeps. I wrote this in response to one of the Black Panther Party pledges, which was we want an immediate end to police brutality. Yeah, and it was kind of inspired by Fred Hampton. So yeah, here we go. I know why the caged bird sleeps. It's just to escape the imprisonment of the deathly cycle that is white supremacy. The caged bird dreams that it can be free, and by free, I don't just mean from cages. I mean free like not fearing death at the hands of a law enforcer who's paid by the taxes from your wages. I mean free like no beatings from police who vow to uphold the law but let their morals scatter into pieces when they clamp down on necks with knees and shoot kids holding sweeties. I mean free like at least having the decency to let families see their deceased loved ones after you've killed them. I mean free like just being able to mourn and grieve without the added stress of having to march and protest and petition for peace. I mean free like not being shot by police at a traffic stop. We don't want to turn the tables, we just want to change what's on the tabletop. Shouldn't have to wait in line for freedom, shouldn't have to fear police when we see them. What do you do when you see someone dying, but it's the one you would call for help that's got their knee on their neck? How do you just let the police do their job when they steal breasts for selling cigarettes? Where do you go for safety when police choose who they will and won't protect? How do you trust the justice system when it doesn't seem like there's any justice left? Because things are either wrong or right, can't be both at the same time. Not when you pledge to protect, but use your power for corruption instead. I mean free like removing a few bad eggs from the rest of the clutch. I mean free like most of the corrupt police that have beaten, abused and unlawfully killed but have never been locked up. No justice, no peace. We're not asking for much. We don't want to turn the tables. We just want to change what's on the tabletop. If you wear a badge that says protect and serve, but you in danger and harm, you should have to take that badge off. Wouldn't let a doctor make a patient ill. Wouldn't let a firefighter get away with arson. But from history, it seems that police are allowed to attack and impede as long as the victim is Black when they bleed. So to make it clear, I mean free like a bird, but not a bird that's surrounded by foxes. I mean free like love, but not a love that's toxic. They hunted the Black Panthers for supposedly being violent, whilst police themselves brutalized innocent Black people. But which one do you think that they say the mob is? Your blue life mattering isn't the same as my Black life mattering, because my Black is my skin, and blue's just what your job is. When will there be a stop to this pendulum of violence that isn't weighted to favor the side of justice, but favors those who get to decide what justice is? What happens when respectability politics isn't applicable? Because guess what? Some of the victims of police brutality have been kids. There's a monopoly on freedom, and Black people do not have first, second, or third dibs, but we're still the ones who have to pay the price in the end with our lives. I know why the caged bird cries. Just hoping if you'll hear its plea one more time, you might change your mind and set it free. I know why the caged bird sleeps. It's because it hopes to wake up to a better tomorrow where freedom is guaranteed and not just borrowed for a chosen few. That's when I say free, I mean free like you and I and we want an immediate end to police brutality. Thank you. That is my first poem. My second poem is a bit more light. Not too light, a bit more light though. Still dark. It's called Rum and Raisin. It's just about a celebration of Black British culture. Yeah. Rum and raisin children on hostile pavements, confined in impoverished places that now mirror London's richest faces. From Brixton to Notting Hill Gate, once the birthplaces of Black resistance. Free riots across the 80s in Brixton. The Mangrove 9 from W10 spent 55 days in trial, which led to the first judicial acknowledgement of racism in the Met. And never forget that Stephen Lawrence ran 120 meters after being stabbed before bleeding to death, wrong or right. No one can deny the impact of the death of Mark Duggan. Right spawned across the country because the police shot him. That's 180 ethnic deaths in police custody since 1990. And if you didn't hear me, I said that's at least 180 ethnic deaths in police custody since 1990. Let's watch the racism transgress. Arsenal's top goal scorer, Ian Wright, played at England for 8 years, but only appeared 33 times. Now, I could sit there and wait for you to do the maths, or I can just let you know that he definitely would have played more if he was white. And has any other MP ever seen as much racist, sexist harassment, even death threats, than Diane Abbott, the first Black woman MP, who has been criticised more for fumbling figures than other MPs who have used the word nigger, but what did the government care about Black emotion? SS Windrush brought 492 Caribbean people across the ocean, the first group of post-war Caribbean immigrants, to help rebuild a country that decades later would say they can no longer live in. But what does the government care about Black faces? We've seen the people of the Windrush generation wrongly deported in at least 83 cases. Did the heat of the melting pot boil down to this moment? They tell us to go back to where we came from, those Caribbean and African places, and only let us be British when we're Dina Asher Smith winning races or Grammy nominated like Joan Armatrading, an accomplished writer, Black British Benjamin Zephaniah, or a Frank Bruno fighting boxers top rated. Being Black British is an oxymoron of love and frustration. And being Black British and famous is a constant battle of hate and admiration. Because you'll be accepted as long as you're a Briton, but you never let your Blackness be a part of the celebration. And you'll be loved as long as you're winning, but if you take a loss, then your Blackness will be at the forefront of your condemnation. So forget it. Let's have one more rum to raisin, another Black British generation of children on hostile pavements, confined in impoverished places that still manage to become some of Britain's most popular faces. Wow. Thank you.
I knew you said wow, fam.
That was amazing.
That was fun.
That was amazing.
Thank you guys. Yeah, so I'm Jada David. We have been Poetic Unity. So a big thank you again to Mr. Reed, Aisha Therese, Poet RS. Make sure you follow everyone. Also, guys, if you want to keep up with the work that Poetic Unity is doing, make sure that you check us out on Instagram and Twitter. I'll put those in the chat too. It's at Poetic Unity. And yeah, thank you for listening, everyone. Thank you for having us.
Wow. Thank you guys. That was amazing. I'm loving the rum and raisin ice cream. Black history every day, all day. Great, 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 great. Okay, so let's move on to our next poet, Nairobi Thompson, who was featured as a poet in the documentary film Looking for Love by award-winning film director and producer Malek Shabazz. Nairobi also worked with award-winning filmmaker and director Solomon Garcia to produce 3 short films showcasing her poetry. She's a published academic and creative writer, has produced several publications, most notably her academic endorsed book, Bayonets, Mangoes and Beads, representing the loss of African and diasporic voices of World War I and World War II through poetry. She has also written a series of 5 original shows where she explores various themes using different styles of poetry and performs these herself. Currently, she holds the following positions of the BBC Regional Poet, Poet in Residence for the Windrush Foundation, and Poet in Residence for the Equiano Society. Welcome, Nairobi Thompson.
Thank you so much. I wasn't expecting to read all of that out, but thank you. And Poet Unity, you are an absolute inspiration. It was a joy to listen to you. I'm just making some quick notes, you know. But thank you. It was wonderful to listen to you. And so, yeah, so let me take you through my set and mindful of the theme, proud to be. The first one I'd like to share with you this afternoon, to make sure you've got the time right, yeah, is entitled First. Posh Spice, Beckham's wife, did not invent hair extensions. Maasai warriors and Mambetu women understood adornment for status. We were the first. The World Wide Web was every word we said, passed on from generation to generation. We were the first. Before Columbus, there were African migrations to Europe, the golden age of the Moors, West African kingdoms of Mali, with huge fleets of merchant vessels trading knowledge, bronze and gold for Mexican maize. Masters of the sea, we sailed for fair trade and not for conquest. Thus, Columbus didn't discover us, for we were not lost. He simply found his way home. As evidence points straight to Homo sapiens emerging first from Africa. Thirst for the truth finds that bones do not lie. We were the first. The Industrial Revolution did not start in Europe. It started in Tanzania. Lake Victoria holds secrets of 13 Iron Age furnaces superior to European invention. We were the first. Before Stonehenge, there were the pillars of Naramatunga, aligned to the stars. We were the first. Before the Georgian calendar, the Kushite measured days and weeks on the rising of certain constellations. The Dogon in West Africa understood the solar system, Saturn, the moons of Jupiter, the Milky Way, the recorded complexities that today can only be revealed by the most powerful telescope. They looked for hope. We were the first. The Ishango bone, with lunar notches carved into it, denote indisputable lunar approximations. The Yoruba from Nigeria used complex number systems before the Greeks. We were the first. Imhotep, the world's first named physician, made medical advances in anatomical observations and cures for ailments. All this was some millennia before Harvey Cushing, Alexander Fleming, and Nobel laureates. We are connected to the original by umbilical cords of destiny and timelessness. Raise those lowered eyes and shuffle feet no more. Shame is not our burden. These treasures are ours to boast in. These truths are ours to celebrate because we are the first. Thank you. My next, thank you. Bless.
Thank you. That was amazing.
My next piece is simply entitled Black Pride, and it came out of a conversation where I was in a group, and white people were asking why they're not allowed to celebrate their whiteness, but I get to celebrate my blackness. Yeah, we still having those conversations. So this poem is entitled Black Pride. My black pride has never led to unreparated white genocide. You're offended when my children wear t-shirts that call them Black kings and Black queens, claiming reverse racism if you dared to say the same things. If you dared to refer to yourself in the same terms, you burn with what you call a double standard, calling for a White History Month in equivalence, like you haven't had a prevalence of white history every month for centuries. Unmoved that a nod to white supremacism or white nationalism existentially means my extermination, eradication. My Black pride is not predicated on your demotion or dehumanization. My rise is not built on your fall. My wealth is not secured by your unending servitude. When I say my Black is beautiful, it is in the face of refusals to see me as human. My Black power shout is one of freedom, emancipation. You want to shout white power as if it doesn't mean my death and destruction. When I fix a sister's crown and tell her she's more than able, when I revere a brother and tell him his love keeps me stable, it is against the proliferation of banana and gorilla emojis, hate-heated, anonymously tweeted to our champions and stars that tech giants are seemingly unable to prevent, even though we can get to the moon and to Mars. You can boast when your white pride is hateless and bloodless. When the detriment inherent in your assertions of prominence is removed. When your rise is not dependent on my demise, when your elevation is not dependent on my denigration, when you're no longer morbidly energized to see me cowed and kowtowed, if you get there, I'll be waiting, ever Black and ever proud. Thank you. My next piece was inspired by the conviction of George Floyd's murderer. And it's entitled Rewriting the Narrative. And we know that a narrative is a story that surrounds a certain subject, a certain group of people. It doesn't have to be based on fact, but it's pervasive. It just keeps going, and that's the narrative around certain people. We know that there are certain narratives around us as Black people about our capacities and our capabilities, etc., that just become these stereotypical narratives about us. So this poem is entitled Rewriting That Narrative. Augmented storytelling, descriptive exposition showcasing strongholds, prevailing thoughts become truths without analysis, influencing deeds and actions that are defended as realities that all must accept. The narrative around us was that our lives did not matter. And if our lives mattered, it was only relative to ownership of property, relative to unpaid hard labor, relative to generating generational wealth, but not for us. And even though various and changing laws and constitutions, revolutions advocate equal footing, equal standing, humankind and equality extending like seas, stretching with rhythmic lapping pulses towards horizons that circle the globe. The actuality for Black people is that our lives, our pain, our experiences, our gains matter less than the algae growing in the water. The evidence is all around us, long-standing throughout history, resisting scrutiny and dismantling. Colonizers came to our countries, claimed our lands as their own, planted their flags, harvested us in the names of their gods and powers. And as time has gone on, they repeatedly demonstrated whether we live or die means nothing. And it has taken centuries of us pushing with steady diction to discredit that work of fiction. Now he has made known our vital imperative. George Floyd's death has changed the narrative. Before, there was a level of immunity that was worn like a cloak of invincibility. And it didn't matter how heinous the crime against us was, we would watch in agony as perpetrators were barely called to answer for their crimes, but no longer. When George Floyd's murderer was convicted, handcuffed, while the world watched, the deranged, parroting narrative changed. Whether you think we're worthy or not, whether you think we're equal or not, the next time you get the notion to use excessive force, the next time you get the notion to extinguish our light, you need to alter flight, because we are all George Floyd now. We are all George Floyd now. Every young man, every young woman, every grown man, every grown woman, we are all George Floyd now. Every John Doe or Jane Doe, every cold case that never gathered pace are all George Floyd now. Your deeds are seen, your depravity noted, your demeanor captured on film with a jury that voted for justice. So, the next time you get that itch to get your kicks by shooting a Black child dead center in the chest, just like you practiced on the target range, oh, you might still think we're worth less than nothing. But are we worth your job, your family, your reputation, your liberty? The next time you pick up a taser or gun and point it at an unarmed Black person, you better weigh that decision, that action against the things that matter most to you that you're about to lose, because we are all George Floyd now. So I've still got a little bit of time. I thought I would do a celebration of who we are in connection, obviously, to the theme of being Black and proud to be. This one's entitled Woman. We are everything. 1,000 shades of dark and light. We are silk-wearing, diamond-adorned, child-bearing, royally ruling, government office-holding, goat-herding, seed-planting, hunter-gatherer providers. We are long and slender, regal, barely touching the earth, gliding on air. We are solid, talawa, wahala, strong-limbed, curvaceous, the envy of all other women. We are Black hair, mystifying, inexplicable blonde, brown Black eyes and hazel bark, unblind blue-gray with sunlight spark. We are African albino white with attitude, golden similitude with indisputable, beautiful, aboriginal, original features. We are the Black woman. We are the first. We are ocean. We are Eve. That's a celebration of the women, and you know I couldn't end without celebrating my Black kings. So this one is called Black Man. That's my last one for the set. Black man. Black man. How they gonna tell me that you're not worth nothing when every God chiseled inch of you is perfectly hewn? Black man, How they gonna tell me that you lazy when your labor built the world? There isn't a place on this earth that isn't infused with you, blood, sweat, tears, and bone. Black man, how they gonna tell me that you are stupid when you were the first mathematician, physician, architect, astronomer, musician, artist, and magician? The list of firsts is endless. Black man, I refuse the lies, the negative stereotypes, the diatribe about your worthlessness. I am tired of listening to all that. You got this Black woman's support. I got your back. You are the salmon swimming upstream against the rush of water. You are excellent because you are disciplined and habitual about improvement. You build your mind and your body, becoming strength, able to bear the weak. For what is strength without burden, or eyes without sight, or heart without beat? You know the price of endurance and enlightenment, and gladly pay, for this is who you are. You have purpose and value. I see you and know the world is a better place with you firmly in it. Black man. Thank you.
Wow. Wow. That's all I have to say. Wow. You guys have some amazing work. I love me a Black man.
Girl, I hear that. Just give me a high five. Just touch out. Okay. Mm-hmm.
Oh God, thank you so much, guys. That was really, really glance. Now I'm just going to open it up for the floor. If anybody has any questions they'd like to ask, any comments they'd like to be made.
I just want to say thank you, Nairobi, for that piece. It was very empowering as a Black man. I felt empowered. So, yeah, thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
Yeah, I feel like that your whole set is just giving me superpowers. I'm ready. So seriously, I had goosebumps throughout, had tears in my eyes at a certain point. Like, wow, powerful, amazing. I'm in awe. I'm in awe.
Yeah, that was definitely a very energizing way to kick off Black History Month. So thank you.
No, for real, it was powerful. Even my son was listening to it, and he's like, "Oh, Daddy, can we start writing again?" So,
oh, that's beautiful.
So no, really, thank you. Like, you've given me, like I just said, powers. You've given me powers. You know what I mean? You're a Black Panther and that. So yeah, thank you.
No, that's my job as an elder.
I
know I look good, but I'm still your elder, so you know.
Yeah, I must admit though, when you did bring up Posh Spice, and I was like, okay, that's a different generation.
It was really Bo Derek, but you know, when I wrote the piece, I thought that nobody'd be able to relate other than my generation. So
that we're showing our age.
Relatively current, relatively, because they made so much fuss back in the day about, oh, she's got extensions. I'm like, I know what. What is going on? What is excitement about? I don't understand. Like, she invented them, you know.
I know. Do you guys know Bo Derek?
Girl, please. Don't sit
I remember the name. I think I'm just about to look them up. Because,
go and have a look.
Yeah. What's this?
We'll go and have. They're looking at who Bo Derek is, because there's a different generation. We're going back to the 80s.
Yeah. So this was it was a Bond movie, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And you know, they always introduced the love interest, sort of like coming out of the sea or something like that. So she emerges out of the sea in this bikini, but she's got cane row. And the world went mad. World went mad, proper mad.
Yeah. I know
Proper mad. It's like
about.
And beads.
Yeah.
She's got
Like,
the little
hello?
white beads on the end, right?
Yeah.
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 The little bangles.
Yes.
That's
yes.
it.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, that's the one. That's the one. And the black population at the time was like, wait, what about that?
Yeah. You realize then that it goes back. That's basically when it really started. And the same way that the generation now, when it comes to Posh or any other individual who has braids, the Kardashians, I would say that in that generation.
Oh, they call it the Kardashian braids.
That's right. It goes back to Bo Derek. So what you see now happening now happened way back then in a different time, in which it was like when we used to go to school and our hair in braids, and they'd be like, what's the big deal? And that's when it started. And that's the generation come up when you now have kids going into school, or girls, boys going into school with their hair in braids. It's a different time. But thank you. Thank you. Anybody else has any questions or like to comment?
There's comments coming through in the chat box. So Carla says, I've been listening to Nairobi since the Windrush Foundation and Equiano Society Zoom calls. Love the poetry.
Oh, thank you.
Okay. Oh, I remember that. Carla said the flick was 10. Okay. And that was Ursula Andrews in Dr. No. Okay.
Ah, right. Thanks for that. Yes.
Dudley Moore. There you go. Thank you.
Yes.
Cool. All right. What else? Did you have any?
Yeah, if anyone does have any questions, Preeti, we'll come over to you. Feel free to pop your camera and mic on.
Okay, hi everyone. It was very beautiful, lovely, very moving. Who's the famous American Black poet? She's still alive.
Maya Angelou or
Maya Angelou, yes, a bit like that, yes. Sorry, I'm showing my ignorance, but I'm probably going to get into a lot of trouble for asking this. But you said questions, so I'm Indian. But when we have these feelings, how do we get along with people if we have these feelings? Do we keep it within ourselves? How do we love a person if we have such strong feelings about them? How do we repair? Because I go to a church where it's very sad. I'm the only colored person there, and it's just I don't know why it's like that. Why is it exclusive? And how can we love in spite of that?
Anybody like to answer that question? I'll leave it for the audience.
I wanted to know what if you meant like, how do you love when you feel like somebody is racist, basically? Like, how do you love people around you that you feel are racist? Is that what the question is?
Yes. How do you feel when you see an English person or a white person? When I grew up in India, but that was a long time ago. But if it's been like that all your life, and you have such strong feelings, how do you overcome it?
I think it goes back to unlearn to relearn. Like we've been bombarded with misinformation to the point where it's almost passed off as facts. But we live in an era now where information can, with a click of the finger, boom, you can get everything you need to know. And I think, you talk about love, but love isn't a color. You talk about feelings, but feelings aren't dictated. Feelings aren't branded by just one color. So I think you have to first of all, educate yourself. You have to educate yourself. You have to educate, sorry. You have to educate yourself and others around you. And I feel like we're in a, because we're in a day and age where everything is quick, you know, that doesn't mean people are as quick to understand, you know. So sometimes it takes a bit of patience to get through to people, but collectively, if we keep on pushing and we keep on taking the truth, not the education system, but taking the truth and applying it, I feel that we will get through to people. And it may not necessarily be in my era, but it will happen at some point.
I was gonna say as well, that to add on to what RS has said, that yeah, education is important, because obviously I feel like if you understand racism, then it's not as hard to deal with. And what I mean by that is a lot of us experience racism and we don't know, like, maybe the origins of it or why people seem to dislike us so much, Black people so much. And then it means you can end up buying into the lie that there is something wrong with you or whatever. But obviously, if you educate yourself, you know that the origin of racism is jealousy. So, and if you understand oppression, if you understand oppression, like irrespective of race, yeah, nobody ever oppresses anything that isn't a threat to them. If something's not a threat to you, you're not going to try and control or oppress. So if you basically, what I'm trying to say is, if you understand that racism happens because you're so amazing, then yeah, it's just easier to deal with, where you're just like, obviously it still gets you down sometimes, but you're just like, you know it's happening because you're awesome, basically. So yeah, that's how I deal with it.
And it's a great couple of questions, Brittany. Personally, for me, having experienced racism really since, you know, junior school, was held back at school, and I was told I was lazy, and I was put in remedial learning, etc. So a couple of things helped me succeeding in what I wanted to do. So as soon as I got my A-levels, I went back to school. I was like, boom, yeah. Went on, did my master's, about to do my PhD. I'm just like, so the things so part of it is disproving or rewriting that narrative, and I take ownership of that. In terms of how to love, I suppose it's as with anything, when you love is a decision, it's not a feeling. I know there are feelings associated with it, but they're physiological, and they're just chemicals. When the heart stops fluttering, you have to make a decision as to whether or not you're going to love and invest in another person. So I don't suffer fools gladly. This is me. So if I see that you have no intention and no genuine compassion towards me, I ain't got time for you. I don't really care about whether you profess to be a Christian, a Muslim, or any kind of persuasion. I judge you by your fruit, the way you treat me. And if you treat me like you don't consider me worthy of your time, then you ain't gonna get my time. And the third thing, counseling. Yeah. Racial trauma is a real thing. And it's an encouragement I give to everyone. I wouldn't just, we deal with it, but really we shouldn't be just dealing with it, because it's trauma and it's daily. It's a daily onslaught of trauma, and in everywhere you go, going into a shop, you know, with the police, at work, it's every day, it's relentless. And if you don't find a way to be able to say, I'm done with these people, and just getting it off your chest, whether you do that in your worship, you've got to find a way to exercise these demons. You cannot carry it. If you carry it, it will destroy your mind, it will destroy your faith in humanity, and it will destroy your body. So get help. And I'm saying that to everybody, get help. Stop carrying the burden alone. We're writing, that is fantastic. That's a way out. find other ways and other safe spaces to offload so that you're not carrying the poison that people are giving you. And that's where the healing comes from, not when you're trying to carry everything yourself, every slight, every throwaway comment, every time they held you back when you should have been promoted. If you carry all of that,
Recording in progress.
I hope that's helpful.
Thank you, Nairobi. That it was actually really well put. And just going back into the chat where Shamindra's actually said education and awareness is really important. And Sanchira has mentioned about self-care. We have self-care. Trauma is, if you carry trauma, it will wear you out. It will wear you down and it will shut you down. So definitely self-care. I agree with everything that you said, Nairobi. Coming from a generation, we take it on board ourselves. We carry it without even realizing sometimes that we're carrying it until something happens. And then it's like an overflow, an explosion of everything that comes out. And then you change your way of thinking, your way of dealing, the way of dealing with people. You become angry and you become bitter. And if you carry bitterness, it will eat you out. So in any way that you deal with it, you guys, poetry is your way, expressing, it's your story. If you don't write, then how do you do? People journal, people exercise, whatever you find, whatever you can to deal with the traumas that you have. And counseling, as they say, Black people don't like counseling. Yeah.
Just another narrative. It's another narrative. It's not true.
There you go. That's it. We have your sister circles. We have our groups. We talk, we share. Continue to share. Continue to share. And on that note,
we have Sanchia who's going to share something with us.
Thank you.
Hi, good evening. Yeah, the poetry from the young poets and our more mature poet has just been, just mind-blowing. I mean, I've heard Nairobi so many times, but every time she just still manages to just blow things out the water. But no, the young poets as well, so talented. So just keep going, keep going, keep going. But yeah, I just wanted to say something that we've actually started last month was looking at the self-care that we need with all of the racial trauma. And we've had sort of 2 sessions and we've got another 2 coming up. So if any of you haven't booked and want to book, just drop me a line. But yeah, it's really important that we acknowledge, the things that have happened and continue to happen to us, our loved ones, our family and friends, and even those that, our white allies that stand in solidarity will have witnessed things that are distressing to them as well. So yeah, it's really important that we, develop those tools. Because if we don't develop those tools, then we're going to end up being the one being kind of, what I mean, turning into whatever. So, yeah, it's really important. And just wanted to say how, just thrilled I am by this evening. So thank you once again.
Give yourselves all a round of applause. Okay, Neil, if there's anybody have any more questions? And then
I have a quick question actually.
Go ahead.
Because I'm a former student. I'm a former student of LSBU. And I remember there was I wanted to get involved with the ACS when I was there, but I didn't get to. There was a lot of things going on. But
Okay.
just as a member of staff yourself, I was just wondering, like, because obviously recently, I've started wearing my hair out in the workplace because I've grown my hair for the first time ever, and it's really interesting that the experiences you have, because you hear about them before you go to work with your hair out, and then you experience them, and it's like, so when things like that happen to you, maybe in the workplace, do you feel like it's a safe space that you you have there that you could be able to report it or talk to your colleagues at least? You as a Black woman in that workplace.
In a Black woman, okay, let me explain. There's two areas. I've worked in private and I've worked in public. Public being in university setting, private being in corporate when I used to work in the city. Growing up and working in the city, you'll find that hair is has been a fascination for anybody. Okay, because as a Black woman, we can change our hair just like that. We can camera roll it, we can cut it, we can put wigs on it, we can braid it, we can do a lot of things. Okay, and that fascination it's a lot of it is our curiosity. And as a Black male, having your hair out is a different. I come from a generation where Black men, it was cut your hair short or you'd locks it. And back then, loxing was seen in some areas as a no-no. But in the workplace, and when you work in certain institutions, your hair is always going to be a focus of attention, always. It's educating the people that ask you questions about it. And there are, as far as I'm aware of, there is no policy in the workplace that says about Black people's hair.
No, there's no policy, but there's the way that you're perceived as lacking in professionalism, which we see manifesting itself in schools.
That's it.
And then by the time you get to the workplace, then there's this question of, well, can you be more professional? And nobody wants to say, can you straighten your hair or can you wear a weave? But what they really mean is exactly that.
Can you?
Yeah, I mean, but well, as you can see, I'm in a business.
Well, I'm locked in.
Yeah,
I'm shaved at the
sides. I used to have my hair permed straight. For me, it was a convenient thing more than anything. But when I started to realize that it was that people felt that I was trying to be white, they stopped it. I said, listen, I know exactly who I am. And I'm here to do a job, but not everybody's built like me in terms of the ability. So that's why, as we were saying, that the groups are important, because this is where you get your empowerment. It's where you get your confidence. Because when you think the fascination with the hair, started when Europeans started to colonize Africa, and your hairstyle was as distinctive, relative to the tribe that you belong to, was distinctive as the Scottish have different types of tartan. You look at certain people who understand the Scottish culture will be able to look at a piece of tartan and say, what the heritage and lineage is around that piece of tartan. Our hair was like that. There were certain styles, the Fenty styles were, so the plait that comes from the side and then comes down the front. There were different styles, and they denoted your seniority and your tribe. And the first thing that they did with us when they enslaved us was shave our hair, men and women alike, shave it off. So you couldn't even identify by sight whose tribe you belonged to. Then we were changed to people from different tribes. So then even the language was an issue, because there's 50 plus languages, and we're not even talking dialects, languages. So it's all part of our dehumanization, and all part of our to get rid of our identities, our separate and distinct identities. Now that we're getting understanding our history and having pride in that, there's still this assertion that, well, you're not professional, and I think the Black Lives Matter movement has really helped with that, because now you're seeing people on TV with locks, you're seeing them with cameras, you're seeing presenters not necessarily wearing weaves and having their natural hair. And I'm not for or against. I'm saying do you, and be proud of what you're doing and who you are unapologetically. So if you're wearing a protective style, and you've got a weave, you're beautiful. If you've got your locks, you're beautiful, and that's it. And it got nothing to do with nobody else. Over my life, I've got to the stage now where I just say, don't touch my hair. And that's the face. That's it. Because to do that, you have to invade my personal space. I cannot do that to you. If Neil's lovely, and I see he's got a nice little short crop up there, but I can't go up to Neil and rub his head like an alpaca. I can't do that. So why should I accept it? So no double standards. I cannot do that to you. You should not even consider doing it to me. And I'm out of patience now. It must be my age and the menopause, one of the two. Right? I'm out of tolerance for explaining myself. When you do something that you wouldn't dream of allowing somebody to do to you.
But and I agree with everything you said. It's this personal. But Kwame, one thing that you will find is that if people are asking you about it and obviously challenging you and questioning you about it, is the fact that you yourself if you're in the workplace and you have no one else to speak with, then speak with somebody outside of your workplace. Don't hold it. If you're coming out and you're thinking that they've asked me this, why are they asking me this? What's the big deal? Then speak to somebody else. Don't hold it in and think, I'm just going to hold it. Speak. If you can't speak to anybody within the workplace, take it outside, so that, like you're doing now, you're asking us about it. But if you're an alumni of LSBU, not sure how long you've left, come back into LSBU, because we can use your skills and talents to speak to the generation now who are going to go through that experience in the workplace and are not confident enough to say something, or not confident enough to outline or speak about the situation that's going on in the workplace. Because there is a lot happening in the workplace now, and it's more open now than it was 10, 20, 15 years ago. So it's like, how do you deal with that now in the workplace? And if there's no policies around it, and if you go to HR, you're probably going to speak to white male, white woman, who has no idea or understanding of what you're actually going through, if there's nobody of color within your own workplace. But what I will say to you is, don't hold it, talk about it, because it will strengthen you outlining that. Okay?
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Can I jump in with a question, if that's okay? Nairobi, you said how kind of your tolerance level now is, diminished, and I think that's fair enough. Do all of you feel that your tolerance for the more microaggressions and subtle racism, do you feel that since last year that tolerance has diminished, and do you feel that you're more able and not able, just out there to combat it? I know as an ally, when I see it now, I feel my tolerance is just not there anymore about it, any form of racism, to the point of ending relationships with very close family members over it. That's where I've got to. And I think when you said you do make a choice to love, that's very, very true. And you can make a choice to say goodbye when it's the right thing to do. Do you feel that all of your tolerance has kind of like almost gone out the window when it comes to that kind of crappy behavior?
I got zero tolerance.
Personally, I have never had a tolerance of it, honestly. Like, even like Kwame, to answer like your question, I would tell you to at them, call them out. My thing with it is like accountability with a bit of empathy just in order to understand that not everyone is educated the way we are in terms of the problems that we face. And so their immediate reaction to any like the problems that you're facing is not necessarily going to be positive or the way you'd want it to be. So just have a little bit of empathy towards them in that sense. But I don't have no tolerance for it, none at all. I'm not here for it in any sense of the word. I'm atting you, I'm holding you accountable. If it's in the workplace, next time we have a meeting, without saying names, I'm going to say, okay, this happened the other day. There was a comment made. It made me feel uncomfortable. Here's the history behind it and why it's unacceptable. I'm going to like name and shame. Like there's no tolerance whatsoever. And for me, there's never been a tolerance. And I hadn't really realized when I was younger that it was racism. I just know that it wasn't right. It didn't sit right with me. Certain comments that just, my intuition was saying that there's something wrong. And so from then I would question things and call people out. So now that I can actually have an understanding of what that is, I'm naming and shaming. There's no tolerance whatsoever. Tolerance? Compromise? What? I don't even know how to spell that word.
I was gonna say, not to give like people the wrong impression, like I wasn't asking because it's something I tolerate or hold in, because I definitely do challenge them there and then, like I always do, innit? And like but I was kind of I was more asking because like I noticed everyone's just got like their their natural hairstyles today, and then obviously members of staff, and I was just, because I'm experiencing it, the microaggressions in a professional environment now with the hair, and it's new to me. I was intrigued. I was definitely intrigued. But to reinforce what Aisha was just saying, you should always be a diva when it comes to racism, as in even the smallest thing you get me, you say something, because if you do that, people will remember that experience, and things become dangerous when they're socially normalized, innit? So if you make a big reaction every time it happens, I remember say, yeah, that time I said this and I received some harsh reactions, wherever that it had to be that type of harsh or that type of harsh. You get what I'm saying? But yeah, man.
I think that's my quote of the night. Always be a diva when it comes to racism.
When it comes to racism, I love that. I do love that. I'm gonna take that. I'm taking that home. I did notice in the chat, Neil, that Carla was saying it's difficult to call it out if your voice is not heard. And I take that there are different ways and different levels of responding. Just as was it Aisha Therese? She was talking about a little bit of empathy. So I'm very empathetic, but that doesn't mean I'm a doormat. So so when I say I shut things down, I was like, what? What? Oh! It's not like that, although it could be, but it's not like that. There's an intelligent way to respond to things. So sometimes when people are making queries about how I dress or what have you, I will ask, oh, I'm sorry, do you have an issue with my work?
Throw it back.
It just goes back. I'm not even responding to because I'm there to work. That's what I'm there to do. Is there a problem with the report? Is there a problem with such as that? I'm happy to look at it. Do you have any recommendations? Yes, I'm not even entertaining the comments in some instances. And in terms of whether your voice is heard or not, your voice might not be heard on the board. It might not be heard in sort of like large forums, but you deal with what happens to you where it happens. You deal with the racism where it is and where you are. So if somebody is being offensive to you in any way, however it is, microaggressions, then you deal with them. It's not about your voice being heard widely. It's about dealing with them. And there are simple strategies on how to do that. So training is another way of dealing with microaggressions. Because we tend to think about it, dealing with things in personality terms. And if I'm not an outspoken personality, then I can't deal with it. That is not true. What we need are the right tools, regardless of personality types, whether you're outgoing, softly spoken, confrontational, introverted, it doesn't matter. The tool is the tool is the tool. So what you might need is some training and some investment and some tools so that you know what to say in certain circumstances to make your voice heard in that moment and in that situation. I'm free.
Thank you. But I will say to you guys that I will share with you, up until last year, before Black Lives Matter, I didn't even know what a microaggression was. I was like, what's that? As far as I was concerned, it's an insult. You just insulted me. And I was like, so the academic term or whatever you want to call it, microaggression, I was like, what? So far as I'm concerned, it's like, if whatever you've done, you've just insulted me. And then I will do what I need to do to defend myself and to say what I have to say in a professional environment. As a Black woman, you know how to deal with it in a professional environment because it's coming at you all the time. Clothes, hair, how you dress, what you dress, where did you get it from? And you'd be like, what? And then again, you're dealing with white women who on a different level will say stuff to you and you'd be like, as you said, was my work okay? So there is a number of ways to deal with it. I know my job, I do my job and I do it very well. But you will get as I said, microaggressions. I didn't know what they were. As far as I'm concerned, to me, they're insults. And
It's
I'm
a bit
like,
it's a bit like passive. It's a bit like people people downplay passive aggressive, but it's still aggressive. It's still aggressive.
It's still aggressive.
Yeah.
You know, I actually
not okay.
I walked into a team meeting once, and one of the team members said, senior managers together, we're all there. I'm like one of the last people to enter. I'm still on time. And she said, oh, Nairobi, you're always so glamorous. You make the rest of us look like tramps. And I was like, girl, I'm not responsible for how you feel about yourself. That's all I said. I'm not responsible for how you feel about yourself.
You're
and
nice.
Because
nice.
Really,
I guess you look like a tramp.
Right, you know, well, that's what I'm saying. You find ways to throw it back without it being an insult. You know how it's intended. And as Neil was saying, that passive aggressiveness it's shrouded. That insult is shrouded in some like a backhanded compliment. Oh, you always look so glamorous. You make the rest of us look like tramps.
But that's a
And
problem.
I'm not responsible for the way you feel about yourself.
I want to ask, that one there, because I find that one it's a common one. It's like a common microaggression that you hear from people in the workplace, and it's always like they say it as if like you being you is
they can't stand it.
It's like a deep insecurity that always comes out.
That's their problem, and that's how you have to see it.
They're pouring their insecurities onto you. They're pouring their insecurities onto you. I would have just said, listen, that's a you problem. That's not a me problem.
I mean, that is what I said. I just use more words.
Yeah.
because of who I was dealing with.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not a me problem. People, I said, I'm not responsible for how you feel about yourself. I took my phone and I sat down.
That's it. But you also learn to pick your battles. And the timing when you pick your battles. When even the small microaggression or the insult, you learn to pick them. And the thing about it is, as Nairobi said, when you're menopausal and you're women of a certain age, don't ramp. Because it comes out so direct. We're like, don't ramp with me. Don't. It will come. I'm a direct person, but don't go there. Lovely. I can do what I need to do. I can get on with everybody, but don't come at me at the wrong day, wrong time, because you will get it. Just like it can just be a look, and they say looks can cure. Believe me.
I agree with everyone. I think like calling out microaggressions are very important in like Nairobi said, in whichever way you feel capable to do that. I think like the main thing is, and I don't think it's necessarily for the education of other people. I think, in my opinion, I think very few people are racist out of ignorance. I think most people are racist out of intolerance, and they choose to be that way. Like the way that we choose to love, we choose to hate as well. There are obviously people that are just genuinely ignorant, but you can tell that they're very accepting of education. So I think calling out microaggressions is very much for your own process. There's not a day that I wake up and I get through the whole day with forgetting that I'm Black kind of thing. Like I know I'm Black every single day. So if I have to be conscious of my Blackness every single day, you're going to be conscious of it too. Do you know what I mean? I'm not going to change. If you're racist, I'm not going to be able to stop you from being racist, but I will be able to stop you from acting out of character around me. And that's the main thing. If I just need to get through the day without you saying something out of line to me, then, and that's as high as you're going to make it in your progress as a human being, then that's fine with me. I've actually resorted back from trying to change people and trying to educate people on racism. I feel like that's not, so I feel like probably last Black History Month someone asked me this, like what should we do to stop racism? How do we stop racism? And I'm like, I don't know. No one I know, no Black people invented racism. This is the one thing we can't solve this. I mean, that's a question for a different panel of people.
But oh my days, do you know what?
So we need a panel of
Someone
asking the question of how
someone said one time about something about Steve Jobs, about like if you wanted to know some deep information about the iPhone, you would go and ask Steve Jobs. You wouldn't go and ask someone who didn't create the iPhone. Do you get what I'm saying? And people are always asking us, we didn't flipping invent racism, did we? So I think that's what we need to start saying as well. When it's you that invented it, so maybe you should go and ask your
grandparents. That's what I'm saying. Ask your grandparents.
But it's always painted as like racism is like a problem that Black people have, and it's actually not our problem at all. It's something that we have to deal with because we're affected by it, but it's not anything we can do. We can't do anything about it. We do, but like systematically we can't. Do you know what I mean? It's not, we, like you said, we didn't create it. We can't stop it. Do you know what I mean? That's up to the people that are asking the questions about it all the time to do something about it.
Yeah.
So I don't know, but yeah, that's all I want to say.
What a wonderful discussion we're having.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
So we've been mentioning about education. I work in the education sector, and one thing I've noticed is that the staff, especially the higher ups, predominantly they're all white male or white female. Yet the cohort of children that we have are like predominantly Black. Like I think there's like 10 white kids in the school, like in the whole school, right? But one thing I've noticed is that like there's a big push on like kids reading, yet the books that they're reading are predominantly from white authors, and they don't really have, there's not really that connection. So like I said to them, like I want to push more books from Black authors, which they're very accepting to. However, what they teach in terms of Black culture, it's not even Black culture, Black history, in terms of culture and history, is still wrong. It's either incorrect or it's diluted. It come like unflavored squash. So what I want to know is that how can, because again, like we're able to sort of implement our own sort of like curriculum in a sense, but we still have to keep to this nonsense curriculum that they try to teach us, is how can we sort of drip feed certain bits of information to these kids? Because reading books is one thing, but you can still read a book but then go to class and that teacher could just turn your whole life around in terms of what they teach. So how am I able to sort of like drip feed into these kids more of the culture that they're supposed to be learning?
Do you work in a school?
Yeah.
Then you set up your own book club.
I was actually going to say that as well.
Set it up yourself, even if it's as an activity within extra school activity. Create a book club, get kids reading, I'm sure people can donate a lot of books. You don't have to buy them. There are books out there that you can get. And then you set the challenge. You put them in place, you give them a book for a week or whatever, how long the book is to read. And then you start challenging them, asking questions. And it could be week on week, 2 weeks, whatever it is, but you're the driver. So you set it up.
And don't forget that we've all come through that and still come out knowing who we are.
Yeah.
That's because somebody invested in us. So whilst 80% of what we got was Eurocentric, that 20% is what defined us. So if you can be responsible, you can't be responsible for the whole curriculum because you're not the head yet.
No. There you go.
Not the head yet.
You can play your part.
But work with what you have, after school clubs, etc. Keep chipping away, and rather than being burdened by what you're not doing, be encouraged and energetic about what you are doing, because that 5%, 1%, that one teacher, most of you all now will look back at school and remember one teacher.
Yeah.
Be that one.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you.
I want you to come back and then tell us. I want you to email edi@lsbu.co.uk and tell us how you're getting on. And if we, remember, LSBU we have academies and we have Lambeth College. We're a group. So all of you email, or like all of you to email edi@lsbu.ac.uk, feed in, because then I can feed it back out. Lambeth College, the academies, South Bank, UTech, and South Bank. 11 till, was it 11 to 14 schools in the Southeast London? And we can use you all in different ways, because we have an education department in LSBU, and we train teachers, primary school teachers, so you can feed in. And we're looking
I just wanted to remind you about Betty Campbell, who was in the news last week. First Welsh Black teacher, had the statue. You know, she wasn't setting out to change the world. She just knew that as a Black woman, she had value, and she was determined to give of her best, regardless of the constraints. She did what she felt she was there to do. And now they're honoring her. Yeah, so it's about providing the solution to a problem. You know what the problem is? How much of the solution can you be? You be that, and less focus on the problem, because the problem will discourage you and weigh you down. But you being the solution and knowing that you're achieving something and you're positively impacting, and you're making change. You know, I'm not saying nobody will remember you, but like RS, we might not remember you in 10 years time, 20 years time, but that one little boy, that one little girl that you inspired could be the next Prime Minister. Yeah, so it's not so much about our role per se, it's us doing our utmost to be the change we want to see.
I think there's another event in the making here.
I've got another lunch and learn, and I've got some things that can bring you all back in at different times over the course of the year. Trust me, yeah, definitely. Remember, we've got.
I'm scared now. I know you got my number, so
I'm ready. I'm ready.
Yeah,
I'm ready
I will put it all in. I will put you all in. Get you in front of the students and academics too.
Indeed.
Before we round up, I'm just going to do a quick plug of all of our events for the upcoming month, if that's okay with everyone, and I'd love to share them with you all too. So on Wednesday the 13th, we have Dame Elizabeth Onwu talking about her new book, Dreams with My Mother. She is incredible. On the 14th, we have a lunch and learn with Black History Walks, doing a compilation of all of their tours for us in 1 hour, which would be great. On the Monday the 18th, on World Menopause Day, we have the wonderful Karen Arthur talking about celebrating life after 50 with her podcast, Menopause Whilst Black. It came up a lot here, so Karen is incredible. Then on the 20th, we have another lunch and learn with Nathan Gunn. He's from the director of the Educate Group, and Nathan is going to be talking about the awarding gap, accelerating action on the awarding gap. We have an LGBTQ thought leaders event taking place on the 26th with Dr. Ronks talking about challenging public perceptions. And then on the 27th, LSBU's Dr. Sabi Pinabasi will be talking about his campaign to remove the statue of Robert Peel in Manchester. So that's our events for the month. I've popped the link in the chat box. I'd love to see our audience there. You guys are all welcome, very much invited to, and I definitely look forward to working with you again sooner than next year. Definitely. Let's make this happen. Pam, I'll hand over to you for closing. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Neil. Guys, thank you very, very much. It was a pleasure. I'm glad I stayed to the end to see you all through. And on that note, I'm going to want you to all email me your resumes, please. I'm serious, and I will do my utmost best to get you back into LSBU in the areas that you want to go in. Kwame, you're LSBU alumni, so you've got no excuse. Okay, so send me your resumes, guys, please, and then I will do my utmost best to farm you all out in different areas of your expertise. I know you're all poets, but you've also got other skills. Okay, and on that note, thank you everybody who's joined us to listen in this evening, and hopefully we'll see you all again at one of our other events for the Black History Month. Good night and God bless.
Thank you.
Good night. Thank you,
everyone.
everyone.
Bye. Bye, Poetic Unity.
Thank you.